Welcome to the Jeremiah Show. Are you ready for something new? Because I got a whole new topic for the show. I'm excited to talk about it. I'm excited for my guest today. So just sit back and relax, and I'm going to tell you all about it. I want to tell you first, how did this show happen? How did I become fascinated by this topic? And how was I introduced to my guest today? Well, we'd have to go back a month or two to that night that I've mentioned before, where I hosted a Q&A with the author and it girl, Jenny Boyd, at Chevrolet bookstore in Larchmont. She was there discussing her book, Icons of Rock, in their own words. It was my first time ever doing a Q&A at a bookstore. A distinguished gentleman sat right up front, big smile. And I was a little bit nervous, and he eased my nerves just by that aura he had. He was just beaming at me and I guess maybe encouraging me as I asked my questions and as I did my introduction of Jenny Boyd. So he came up to me afterward and he introduced himself and he said he's in the music business. And he rattled off a bunch of names: Sammy Hagar, Al Jardine, big names. And he also said, though, that he worked, and maybe his most important work right now was with a company called Ambient Enterprises, developing technology to protect and monetize artists' rights for their material, including their music. Or at least that is how I understood it. He had a lot of energy and it was a fun conversation, but that's how I understood it. And I told him it sounded fascinating. And my perimeter music business radio host life has come across a lot of music artists and it's a much needed service. So I was interested. I was pretty fascinated by what they were doing. He quickly introduced me within the next day or so to my special guest today, Kati Walcott, Jeff Marek. And here we are. Always say yes to new people and experiences. You never know what exciting people you will meet. And so welcome, Kati Walcott. Let me tell you a little bit about her. And Jeff, by the way, welcome both of you. Kati Walcott, she's a chief technology officer and a co-founder of Ambient Enterprises. Kati is a thought leader and an inventor of new technologies and solutions that have changed how people and organizations function and innovate worldwide. I'm going to go into her great career a little bit later. Jeff Marek, though, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Ambient Enterprises. Jeff is a visionary tech executive and an innovator. He's driven by a passion for harnessing technology to elevate the human experience. And what both of you, what a welcome to the show, and what a great endeavor you've gone after here.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I'm going to get to your, I want to get into the company here in a minute, but first I'd like to understand who you are, who each of you are, what makes you tick. So first, let's talk about the company. What is Ambient Enterprises?
So go ahead, Kati.
Okay, Kati, I'll start with
Ambient Enterprises is actually a brainchild that came out of many years of working with technology and information, and the realization that when computer science and information systems first started becoming what it is, we didn't do some things right. We did things with the best of intentions, but not quite correctly. And at one time, there were 3 or 4 of us. Actually, I think there were 3 of us in a boat in Vancouver Bay. And we decided to take some time, in the middle of the water and think through how to change some things in information systems that needed to fundamentally shift. And we started Ambient Enterprises on the water. So by the time that we pulled a boat in to, to tie it off, the Ambient Enterprises concept started. And it started with the knowledge and the realization that data and information cannot be in the clear. And that was the fundamental and initial starting point. So Vancouver Bay is our inception point, and data governance is our capability.
I love that story. What a great place to start a company. Hopefully it was smooth seas, smooth water.
Mostly until we got underneath the bridge, it got a little hairy. So we turned around and said, well, if we want to start the company and all the founders should stay in the boat, we should probably turn around.
Yeah, that'd be bad if you lost the founder on the founding of the company on a lake. You said a lake, or was it
It was ocean? Vancouver Bay.
Vancouver Bay. Okay. Yeah, I guess that'd be a bad sign if there was a big storm or a squall or lightning and thunder. But it's amazing. So, okay, so now I know what you are. What do you do, and who's it for?
Was that my turn, Kati?
Yeah,
so,
yes, please.
I'll use your names from now on. How about that? Should I make it easier on you?
That's right. We're both being very polite today. Usually we both talk at the same time. So
I'm a bad host. I'm sorry. I'll use your name next time.
You're good. You're great. Let's phrase it this way. There's a quote I like to use that if you know me very long, eventually you're going to hear this quote. And the quote is from Arthur C. Clarke, and it's that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I love that quote because I truly believe that technology can do wonders in your life. It's kind of been the guiding light and principle for my career and journey my entire life. That being said, Kati referred to it a little bit. Sometimes things can go off the rails. And as a father, I've got kids now, right? They're at an age where they're kind of making their own way in the world. And so I think a lot about what world I've been responsible for creating. And I feel pretty good about it, but not perfect about it. So to answer your question, as we enter this digital world, when I grew up, I had physical books and I loaned them out. And a picture was something you hung on the wall and you started it in the physical world. Now, all of that takes place in the digital world. It actually is created digitally and it exists digitally. And what upsets me is that in the physical world, it's pretty clear. You painted a painting, it's your painting. You can sell it, you can trade it, you can, but as soon as you move in the digital world, apparently all bets are off. And all of a sudden, I dare you, go on the internet and tell me who owns a picture. You can't do it. So we're living in this world where creators, which is really all of us, as we create and build things, whether it's a song that someone's writing, whether it's a movie, whether it's an article you're writing for LinkedIn, you ought to be able to own it, control what happens, and be able to do something or make money off of it. And we're living in a world where that's not true. So the answer is there's a problem here, a problem that's one of the greatest problems of our times that needs to be solved pretty much for all of us. And that's what we're focused on. And that's kind of what brings us here. So the answer is, well, I want a better world for my kids and, everybody else along with it.
I like that answer. I like it a lot. I like it for a lot of reasons. Well, one, that you have kids and your daughter, you're thinking about her. I wonder how much better we would all be off if more heads of companies thought about their kids and creating a world that was, how am I going to leave this for my kids? The quote was wonderful, and it made me think of instantly. Steve Starkey, the producer of Forrest Gump, was just on the show, and he brought up one of the ways a lot of that industrial light of magic, all that stuff that they did in Forrest Gump hadn't been invented yet. They weren't sure how to do it, and so he had that problem. How do I figure this out? So Steve went and hired, as a consultant, a magician, and somehow a well-known magician, the magician solved problems like, Gary Sinise's legs being missing and how to handle that with mirrors. And it just, your quote made me think of that. It is magic, isn't it? New technology. It has a touch of magic to it. Great answer. How did you both meet each other? I'm very curious about that. Have you known each other a long time?
Let me take this one, because I know the day. I probably can give you the date. It was on a Friday morning on a conference call at 8 a.m. But I had the opportunity to join Intel in 2012 as an engineer, and I came in to do various different things, mainly in the data center. I was as a data center engineer my entire career with IBM and then with Intel. And I had an opportunity to come in and do something called IoT, so the Internet of Things. So all of these little devices, which, by the way, very, very important to our conversation here, because they collect data all the time. Your TV, your phone, your car, your Apple Watch, everything is collecting data. But I actually wanted to learn about IoT and kind of step out of my comfort zone and do something different. And Jeff was a leader in the IoT division, leading, kind of a thought leader and strategic leader in many different ways. And I had several colleagues of mine said, okay, you need to get to Jeff Marek's Friday morning call, because that's where he's setting the direction for the IoT group and setting the vision. And I finally had the chance to attend that call. And that was our point of emancipation, where I got to meet him, listen to him, and started to connect with him. So that's where we started. And our paths have diverged and came together over many years at Intel. And then finally, December of last year, I called him up and, I was telling him about this harebrained idea about data sovereignty and provenance. And he said, Kati, you're not crazy. And that's how we had a chance to reconnect again, and our paths have converged, and we've been attached at the hip since then.
So were you a fan of you had heard of Jeff's Friday morning calls, and were you a fan like before you first got on a call, into one of those meetings?
His reputation at Intel and with his colleagues is absolutely, is tremendous. He has a reputation, a very good reputation, for many different reasons. Beyond being a thought leader, he is also an innovator, and he doesn't like mediocrity. He likes to pull people through and drive change and drive leadership. So there were many reasons why I was looking forward to that call. And when I got there and I was able to experience for myself and got to work with him, everything was absolutely right on.
Everything you'd heard ahead.
Everything I heard was true.
It was true. But Jeff, why is Kati just a great chief technology officer for Ambient Enterprises? What is something that we don't know about her that makes her the perfect person for this company?
Kati calls me out of the blue, and as she mentioned, our paths intertwine over the years. She calls me and she tells me about her harebrained scheme. My first reaction is, "You're nuts, right?" I mean, I'm like, "You're nuts." I agree, it's a hard problem, but it's really, really hard. It's not just kind of hard.
Did you say that out loud, or were you thinking that? Because she said you said out loud, "You're not crazy."
I'm not sure. Sometimes I use my outside
It must
voice.
have been in your head.
So, what's kind of funny is that, serendipity-wise funny, I have a rock. It's going to sound silly, but I have a rock floating around my house, and on the rock is carved the word freedom. It's just a white rock, has the word freedom carved in it. So inherently in my passions, right, our ability and our freedom and our ability to express ourselves has always been here. So I get to the first call with her and I can't ignore it. I'm trying to, right? I'm like, no, she's crazy. But then I thought about it. And the more I thought about it, the more right I thought she was. And what was really bothering me is she's scary brilliant from a technology perspective, not kind of brilliant, like scary brilliant. The kind of brilliant where, I'll be honest, right? She'll write white papers on technology. She falls in my category of 3. And what do I mean by 3? She writes a document, describes a technology. I read it the first time. I think about it, look up words. I read it the second time. I start to understand it. I read it the third time, and I can actually have a conversation with her about it. So, I ignore her thoughts at my peril because she's got such a strong grounding in reality and in technology and in so many domains. And I'm continually amazed at, I throw topics at her, just crazy, wild topics. And we talk about everything from hardware to software to the law to, and I think I've got her, right? I'm going to talk about European law. Nope. She can keep up there as well, right? So it's a scary amount of information and experience that she has in her head.
Is she AI?
Far better.
Are you real?
I don't
Kati, are you real?
think you're an AI, but anyhow, it's very inspiring. Let's put it that way.
Let's click the box. I am not a robot.
I am not a robot, and I'm not evil.
Sorry, Jeff.
No, it was no, I don't think she's AI, but anyhow, to answer your question, the idea is inspiring, and once you think about it, you can't shake it. And her tech, and she's right. There is a technological path. It requires some really complex, smart technology that looks a lot like magic. It requires passion and a community of people that want to go solve it. It requires conversations in the legal and the political arena. It's a hard, challenging problem for our times, but it is worthy of us. There is a good reason for doing something about it. And she never wavers in her passion. That's for sure.
Kati, does your business card read "Ignore me at your own risk"?
No,
like
it
that.
does not. I actually, as I said, I don't like being in the forefront of things. I am a plumber, and I've been a technical plumber for a long, long time. I like fixing things deep down in the technology. I don't need to be on top. But just like a good plumber, I am not going to be a Kohler faucet that's going to be amazing. What I'm going to make sure is that you get hot water when you need it. And it's going to come to that Kohler faucet when you demand it in a clean fashion at the right temperature, at the right flow rate. Those are the things
how does that work? It's important.
We can write a technical specification on that.
How does hot water work? That's another conversation for another time, because this is just fascinating. Which there's out on a boat, you guys come up with this company, or you have a phone call. I'm not sure which order came first.
The boat first, and the phone call.
So, do you mind if I ask? Because I want to understand how your minds work. It's different than the rest of us. I mean, and that's a compliment. That maybe not sound like it, but it's a compliment. Is there you describe yourself as a plumber, fixing problems and enjoying more being on the back burner, so that you can. Does that help you, Kati? Does that help you not have a lot of noise around? Is that why you like to kind of be back, kind of observing from afar, maybe, or seeing the whole picture? And the second part is that question is there a discipline to solving these problems? And like, I was thinking a lot about you. Like, do you have to go somewhere else in your mind? Like we all go this far, and you go a little bit farther, to understand these digital problems, these algorithms, this coding. Is it somewhere outside the realm of ordinary human process?
I don't think I am extraordinary. What I think I have a advantage of is that, so a little bit of a background on me. I am a Hungarian immigrant, came here in the early 80s from communist Hungary. And when in communist Hungary, when I was growing up, you were told what your job is going to be. So at age 13, 14, you go through this evaluation, and you're told, well, based on your evaluation, you will be something. And I was told I'm going to be an artist. I'm going to be a fine artist. I was supposed to be a painter or a sculptor. And in fact, I was actually sent to a gymnasium or a high school in Hungary that was mainly focusing on fine arts. Until, long story, but somebody else was able to pay more money and get their kids in there that were not supposed to go there. So my parents, my father was both an electrical and mechanical engineer by his schooling, so 2 PhDs. My mom was working for the Hungarian National Television and Theater and movie studios, Pannonia movie studio in Hungary, as a music designer, music editor. So she was always on the kind of the softer side, on the artistic side. My father was very Boolean, very binary, very set in his ways and processes. So I got a little bit of both, right? I got both sides. And then when I was told I had to be an artist, I was kind of, I didn't have a choice. I liked math, but I was always a rebel. I don't ask permission. I ask for forgiveness. And I rebelled against school and this very strict regime. So I had the background of understanding both. And I think there's a lot of value that comes out of that in the way I think and the way I design things. But when I had the opportunity to come to the United States, I all of a sudden had the opportunity to do what I wanted to do. And so, after, 6-7 months of learning the language and attending high school, I, sophomore year of that high school, I started going to college because high school was boring. And I really started having a lot of fun with science and technology. And during high school, I was working at NASA Ames Research Center in the Bay Area as a student biologist, and building computer programs on basic, crazy statistical methods. But I was loving it. I really, really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed the fact that I could use my artistic background, my biological background, which I started in high school and in college during high school, and then computer science. And frankly, these 3 things are helping me to think outside of the box, because I am not a traditional computer engineer. My husband is an electrical engineer. My background is in genetics. But it's a genetics where I did computer science along the way all the time. But what's really is interesting, when I approach a problem, I approach it from an organic and a biological side. And the way that I usually approach problems is not through established methods, processes, and straight head on like a regular engineer would. I usually surround myself with answers to potential problems, and I sit kind of in the middle. So if you visualize this information bubble, I'm in the middle of that with a question, and I sit and ponder. And I do have to be in a different place. So I usually go for a walk or a hike, and I put myself in a space of thinking, and then I pull answers and potential components of an answer out of this information bubble. It's kind of hard to visualize, but that's what happens in my brain. And as I answer the question, the solution starts building. And the more experiences and the more knowledge I gain, the more the synthesis of this answer comes out. So last year, when I went for our 3-week hiking trip, I came out of that hiking trip with 4 patents, because those ideas and answers came to be, and they coalesced in my mind, and they were not traditional. So when we are talking about how to solve this problem of today that we artificially created for us, you cannot You cannot answer it with the same set of problems and the same set of set principles. You actually have to alter the base state of how you're answering the question. And I think, again, the fact that, I have a artistic background, a biological background, and non-traditional computer science knowledge is really, really helping to facilitate that.
That's incredible. That's really fascinating. So it's the way I put it, the way I thought of it was that you were pushing your mind to new realms, exploring new areas of thought. What you're saying, if I'm hearing you right, is that you actually you relax it. You've got to go somewhere where you're not distracted, where maybe your endorphins are going and your mind starts working, but it also almost you relax it, you step back, you look at the problems one by one, and then solutions come to you by kind of opening your mind and not pressuring the outcome, if I'm paraphrasing and understanding.
You're absolutely right. And in fact, I have to tell you, I got into trouble at Intel one time. I was doing a site-wide keynote, and there was a senior vice president sitting in the first or second row in front of me. And during the Q&A, somebody asked me from way back in the room, said, how do you come up with your inventions? Where do you do that? And my answer, not realizing who was sitting next to me, was, well, not on site. You can't innovate when you are pressured to innovate. You have to innovate in the shower or during a run or during a hike, or as you're sitting, in the middle of the forest listening to crickets. That is when your mind kind of opens up and you have the opportunity to let some of the answers coalesce in a way that is not forced on a framework that is specified. You need to let go of the framework, and you need to be able to let the components come together and attach and connect in a way that may be orthogonal to the way that you are educated or you're taught to actually answer the question.
Wow, what a good answer. You're good at what you do in all ways, and answering questions as well. Jeff, I want to hear if you've got anything to add to that, if you have a different process, but we've got to take a real quick break. So we'll do that on the other side here. My special guest today, Ambient Enterprises, Kati Walcott. She's Chief Technology Officer and a co-founder with Jeff Marek. He's Chief Executive Officer and also co-founder and Ambient Enterprises, solutions to give you back control of your digital life. Ambient Enterprises' innovative data infrastructure and services allow you to manage, protect, and monetize your data assets with unparalleled control, accuracy, and transparency. Manage data by setting your own terms and conditions for the use of your data. You can protect your data, secure it with Ambient Protect, Data Vault, and monetize your data. Create monetization opportunities with Ambient Protect. Ambient Enterprises' mission is to empower everyone with clear ownership of their digital assets and the ability to protect, control, and profit from them. They've pioneered advanced technology for establishing and enforcing your rights in the digital world, augmented by the power of your AI representative. Go to ambiententerprises.com for more information and to check out the revolutionary technology. Again, ambiententerprises.com. And Ambient Enterprises will be featured on the television series Advancements with Ted Danson. Be sure to tune in later this year to watch. We'll be right back.